So what I thought we would do in this video is take a look at the Hyperdoc provided by Loudoun County Public Schools for our distance learning. And the goal of this video is to actually edit this document together for a couple reasons. One is to show you the basics of editing a Hyperdoc, how to insert your own pictures, how to insert hyperlinks, all those kinds of things. But also to just sort of walk through the process of thinking through this template. How do you take the content that you want to give to your students and put it into this format? And the reason we want to do that is to try to chunk it so that students can, complete your lessons without you being there to actually facilitate it. So the Hyperdoc is designed to walk them through step by step because you're not there to do those things for them or with them. So the first thing we're going to do with this Hyperdoc is we're going to make it our own. We're going to go up to File and make a copy. So now that the lesson is our own, we are going to give it a new title. And I'm going to actually create this lesson plan for you, for teachers to follow. So I'm going to call it Making Connections During Distance Learning. And I don't need any of these directions because these are for teachers using the Hyperdoc. Okay, so once we have our title and our directions, we want to move on to the first section, which is to engage your students in sort of an interesting hook or setting the tone for your lesson. So my engage is to have students listen to, or to have you listen to, a 7-minute podcast kind of about the times we're living in right now. It's actually a pretty interesting podcast that sort of shows how kindness is sort of flooding the internet, which is, as we know, a kind of a new thing. So I'm going to get the podcast and then I'm going to show you how to link it. So here's my podcast I want to show. It's from the Daily. And what I'm going to do is copy the URL where the podcast sits. So I have to go to the thing I want to link. So I'm going to go to this podcast. I'm going to copy my URL by just doing Control-C on my keyboard or highlighting the URL up here and right-clicking and selecting copy. And then I'm going to go back to my Hyperdoc. I'm going to highlight the word podcast because that's what I want to link. And then I'm going to go up to Insert, Link, and I'm going to paste the link there and then apply. So now my doc is becoming a Hyperdoc. Now I have links that are linking out to other activities. So now my students are going to be able to see that podcast by clicking on that link. If I wanted to do another one down here just to make the point, I could do something like listen now. And I could do the same process. Highlight it, go to Insert, Link, and then paste. Now, the other thing I might want to do is change this picture. Maybe I don't want that as my picture. Maybe I want to have a picture of a microphone because it's going to be a podcast. Now, you don't have to take time to change all these pictures, but I'm going to show you how to do it just so that if you want to put pictures in other places, you'll know how to do that. So I'm going to delete this picture, and I'm just going to go up here to Insert an Image. I'm going to do it from my drive. You could also upload it right from your computer. And I have it right here because I was working on it. So I'm going to click on this picture and I'm going to insert it. And there it is. My picture has appeared on here. I'm going to kind of straighten it out just a little bit there. Okay. And so now I've inserted my picture into my Hyperdoc. Okay. So I'm going to move down to the next section, which is where I want my students to start exploring. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this and I'm going to put my own information in there. Okay, so for Explore, I want teachers to think about, do you feel prepared to begin distance learning? Are there things you need to review? And so for our purposes, there are 3 main things we're kind of looking at. How to set up a Google Classroom, how to edit Hyperdocs, and how to use Google Meet. Okay, and so I want teachers to be able to go back and review those things. This is where students might be exploring things that they have to kind of brush up on or learn about. And so I want to link out to places where they can do that. So for you, I'm going to say, how do you set up a Google Classroom? I'm going to get the link. So I have that video on YouTube that I want to link there. So I'm going to find it on YouTube. I'm going to copy the URL. And then I'm going to go back to my Hyperdoc. And where it says how to set up a Google Classroom, I'm going to highlight that whole sentence. I'm going to go to Insert, Link, and then paste that link there. Okay, so once I create that link, teachers can follow that link to learn how to set up a Google Classroom. I'm going to do the same with the video I'm recording right now. I would get that off of YouTube or wherever I have it posted, and I would link how to edit Hyperdocs. The last one, how to use Google Meet, I actually have that in a different place, but I can link it the same way. So that one is on Vimeo, which is totally fine. I'm going to pull it up on Vimeo. I'm going to highlight the link, copy it, go back to my Hyperdoc, and I'm going to highlight the sentence, go to insert, go to link, and paste the link in there. Okay, the next section is explain. So here's where you might want to record yourself doing a video. You might want to give them an article to read. This is where kind of the explanation of the content takes place, what you might stand up and talk to them about in a classroom. You would want to try to chunk and fit into this explain tab. What you might want to do is actually use Google Meet to record yourself making a message to students. It's a very easy platform to do that. And what I did is I created a video showing you how to do that. So I'm going to say here, watch this video to learn how. And now, instead of linking out to a YouTube video, this is actually a video that I have sitting on my Google Drive. And I want to show you this in case you want to create videos, but you don't want to upload them to YouTube or a third-party platform. You just want to share it within Google Drive, which is totally fine to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get the link from Google Drive. So I have this in my Google Drive. Let me pull over to Google Drive. So in my Google Drive, I have a video called Record Message Using Google Meet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that video and I'm going to go to Share. And I'm going to copy the share link. I have it as students can view, which is what we want. And then I'm going to where it says watch this video to learn how. I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to insert that link the exact same way. So once you get over to your Hyperdoc, you're always inserting that link the same way. It's just that your links are coming from all over the place. Sometimes they're websites, sometimes they're videos you've created, sometimes they're videos on YouTube that somebody else has created. So you're just always finding that URL somewhere and coming back to the Hyperdoc to link it. So the idea is that the student has the Hyperdocs all linked to the things they need to get to. They don't have to go searching for all of those places. You've linked them all in here. Okay, so for apply, we want to apply this knowledge. This is where you would assign students maybe an activity to do. Maybe you want to give them some sort of an assignment. You want them to create something and send it back to you. You want them to make a video and upload it back to you. This is where they're applying the knowledge that they just learned and reviewed. So I might have you, as a way to apply learning this information, is to create your own Hyperdoc. Or maybe I want you to take my Hyperdoc and work with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this Hyperdoc as your own, but I'm going to make you make a copy of it so that you don't override mine. And you can do this with your students as well. If you make up a document and you want to share it with them and you want them to make a copy of it, you can always do that in Google Classroom by assigning a new copy to each student, but you can also do it sort of on the fly if you need to. And the way you do that is I'm going to go to Share. I'm going to get the copy link. And I'm going to say, make a copy of this Hyperdoc. And I'm going to highlight that again, like I've been doing. I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Link. I'm going to paste that link. But at the end here, I'm going to go from this last slash and see where it says Edit. I'm going to delete everything after Edit, and I'm just going to write the word Copy. And I'm going to apply. Now watch what happens when the students or yourself will click on this link. When I click on that, it's going to pull me into Google Drive and it's going to force me to make a copy of my document. So like I said, you can do that in Google Classroom by the way we've done it, where we assign a new copy to each student. But if you wanted to put something in a Hyperdoc and have it all contained within the Hyperdoc and not have to go out to Google Classroom to get something different, you can force them to make a copy of any of your documents by just changing that share link from edit to copy. All right, so we are moving our way through this Hyperdoc. We're now down to sharing. Maybe we want to have students share back with us what they've done. For most of you, this is going to be turn in your work in Google Classroom. Submit this activity. This is where they're sharing their work back to you. And this is something we've done, all throughout the year. So this is kind of an easy part. We just have to give them the assignment in Google Classroom to complete. For you, if you wanted to share any Hyperdocs that you create, I've given you the link to the county website where you can fill out a Google form and actually submit any Hyperdocs that you've been working on. That way they can be beneficial to all the other teachers in the county. All right, and our last two, we're going to do some reflection for students and some extension knowledge activities. For extend, these are places where we would put things that extend the learning that we're doing. So maybe you know a great article that you don't necessarily want to include in the lesson, but you think if students are super interested in the topic, they may want to go and explore on their own. Or maybe there's a TED Talk that you want to link here. So you go ahead and just put any extension activities in there. For us, I'm going to put in there some different things you can use to engage your students. Now, again, the main focus for us is really going to be Google Classroom, Hyperdocs, and Google Meet. But if you wanted to extend that and do something a little bit more, you're more than welcome to by following the same guidelines and rules that we've used throughout the year. So anything that requires parent consent, you need to make sure that parents are okay with students creating accounts and things like that. So I've labeled in here wherever parents need to have consent. And I also put down here the permission click information for how to get that consent. So you basically would make a permission click form, send it out to all the parents, make sure you get them back, and then you can move forward. Again, these are extension activities, so they're not something you have to do or require. It's just some things if you're kind of bored and you want to move forward with some other creative activities, you're more than welcome to do that within the boundaries of the permissions. And those would all just link right into your Hyperdoc as well. So I hope this helps to kind of see maybe how to set up a Hyperdoc, how to link things, how to insert your pictures. It really is as simple as knowing those few little things, and then you can make it as creative and as interactive as you want, or how it fits your content. So good luck. Please reach out if you need help. Thanks.